Greetings viewers and welcome to a quick and hopefully educational 7 days to die video. I had a question to myself based on one of the little tool tips that I saw. And it got me thinking, how much am I actually missing out on when I'm scrapping stuff versus just straight smelting it in the forge? Is it worth carrying around 2 stacks of items that are kind of the same material? Am I going to get the same quantity out of them? So what I wanted to do was kind of figure out and set up a little testing method and get those numbers so that I know personally what it comes out to. I tried looking around a little bit. I didn't look too hard, but I didn't find any videos that were kind of explaining this topic. And I didn't want to look at a forum and see a bunch of graphs and numbers. I'm more of a visual and hands-on person. So if I do the experiment myself and kind of physically see it in front of my face, I will kind of grasp it a little bit better. So hopefully this video will be helpful to you, maybe give you some information, let you know, hey, if you need to make some more ammunition, you might want to hold on to those brass trophies, or the returns on it aren't that spectacular and you'd rather have the inventory space to get more loot. So let's go ahead and look at what we have set up here, and I'll go through it and then kind of cut out some of the boring parts, and then we'll get into the numbers and see what it looks like. So as you can see in front of me here, I have a couple forges with storage boxes, and they're all labeled. So obviously, we've got 1 brass candlestick. When I look inside of this forge, we have 1 brass candlestick ready to smelt. All of these forges are set up exactly the same. They all have 1 advanced bellows in there just to get the smelting faster. It doesn't provide any more materials, doesn't do anything that's going to change the outcome of this experiment. And they all have 6,000 coal in them. That's it. My inventory is completely empty except for these 2 items here. And as we go down the line here, again, 100 brass candlesticks. We look in the box. I've split them into 2 stacks just because it's the same amount, and it'll smelt in half the time. So these boxes that do not have forges on them, what I'm going to do, I open it up, I have 1 brass candlestick in there. If I scrap that one, I'm going to take the materials that I get from it and I'm going to dump it right back into this box so that it's all organized and nice and neat. I'm not going to carry any unnecessary stuff around with me or try and figure out what went where. So we also have boxes here for the brass trophies. We have brass doorknobs set up the same. Now the radiators are going to be a little bit more of a pain, and probably more of the reason why I'm going to do a little bit of editing to save you guys some misery. So 1 brass radiator is not a big deal. However, they only stack in 5, and in order to be able to smelt and scrap 100 of them, it's going to take a little bit of keeping an eye on this and refeeding it. So in this particular box, I've got the remaining amount to make this 100. And then again, we have 1 in here, and then I've got 100 in there. So I'll just grab all these, scrap them, and see what we come out with. On the opposite side here, we've got lead trophies, lead fishing weights, empty cans. Now, I was trying to figure out with the lead, anything else that we can use. You can scrap car batteries for lead. Unfortunately, they do not stack, and I'm not going to sit here and scrap 100 car batteries. If you guys really want me to after this video, let me know. Put a comment down below. I will come back, and I will do 100 car batteries just for you so that we can get those numbers and data plotted. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to go down the line here, and I'm just going to start turning on all these forges. And then as the forges all have 0 in them right now, so once they're done, we'll know exactly what the amounts came out to. Alright, we've got all the forges going. So I'm going to go ahead and start scrapping these things. I'm just going to pull this out, hit scrap, and so we can see 1 brass candlestick, when we scrap it, breaks down into 112 brass. So the only problem is I'm going to have to sit here and go around to each box and make sure I don't mix up these totals. So I'm going to go ahead and do each of the materials so that I can put them back in their respective boxes. It's taken quite a bit of time to get all this stuff scrapped and smelted, but we have all the numbers here in front of me. We'll go through the forges and the boxes here, and I'll give you my 2 cents worth on what I think I've gotten out of this, and hopefully I can share with you guys by doing so. So, brass candlesticks, I have found out, are a decent source of brass material. So by smelting 1 brass candlestick, it yields 150 brass. By scrapping that same candlestick, you only get 112. On the surface, looking at 1-to-1, not a huge deal. You're looting a POI. You need 1 or 2 more inventory slots to stuff the last of the loot out of that crate into. You got a couple candlesticks on you, and you go ahead and scrap them to put in the rest of your brass pile, free up some space. Probably not going to be a big deal. However, let's say you're playing long term. We're looking at smelting 100 candlesticks that you found throughout the course of your playthrough. That's 15,000 brass. Versus if you found all 100 of those and every time you pick up a candlestick, you're just hitting that S key and you're just scrapping, you're only going to get it with 11,200. Decent amount, considering if we look in the forge here and we look at bullet casings, the bullet casings cost 6 brass. Yes, you're going to need clay to go with that, so that's a whole other beast you're going to have to do to smelt in your forge, but we're just looking at the raw materials. You can't really scrap anything clay-wise. I can't stick a plant in here. All right, so while yammering on and kind of getting lost in my thoughts while I was yapping here for you guys, I kind of thought of something, and here came up with a little bit of bonus content for you here that I was not expecting to do because I didn't really think it would work. So how many times have you watched somebody or you've gone into a house and you found a potted plant, you grab it, you hit scrap? To be honest, the first couple times I did that, I didn't even know what I was getting out of it till I looked down and was like, oh, I'm getting clay. So what I'm referring to are these little potted plants right here. I just grab things, hit scrap, and I keep moving just so that I can get resources. I'm, again, a pack rat. If you've watched any of my videos, man, I fill up on loot, fill up my vehicles on loot, go to the trader, go back home, fill up my storage boxes. So I kind of just learned something here, and I definitely did not see that one coming. Apparently you can put those in a forge. So I put one in here. This is the one I was using for the brass candlesticks. And one plant gave me 40 clay by just sticking it in the forge. Well, use a lot of clay in the forge, making forged iron, forged steel, dart trap darts. You want to make bullet casings? You're going to need clay. So that's pretty good to know that one of them yields 40. However, if you scrap that same potted plant, you only get 6. That's a significant difference compared to some of the numbers we got from the materials for the lead and the brass. That's quite the number there, because scrapping 100 of those plants gave me 600 clay. This is still in the middle of forging. However, if we do the math and we take 40 times 100, that's 4,000. That's a lot of clay to work with to make darts and forge steel and other things. So that alone has already kind of curbed me a little bit. I'm going to stop scrapping those plants when I find them, and I'm just going to stack them up because they seem to be in just about every house I go into. So maybe that'll be a little bit useful information for you and hopefully help you kind of get your stock of forged steel and forged iron built up. So the purpose of this experiment was simply just to see the raw materials that you can scrap versus smelt. And looking at the brass here, again, takes 6 per bullet casing, so that's kind of dependent on you on how you're playing. If you're going to need that extra little bit of brass to squeeze out a couple more rounds to fight those later level hordes. So brass trophies, throwing them straight in the smelter, individually yield 50 brass, versus scrapping that same trophy, you're only going to get 37. So again, over the course of your playthrough, 100 brass trophies going in there, that's 5,000. Versus 3,700. It starts to kind of add up a little bit once you get to those higher numbers. Doorknobs and trophies are the exact same at 50 and 37, so 5,000, 3,700. So one brass radiator straight into the forge is going to net you 250 brass, whereas scrapping it is only going to give you 187. Again, determinant on you and your play style if that's going to be worth the trade-off, whether lugging it around, throwing it in your mini bike, scrapping it on the spot. So I went ahead and did a car battery after all while I was sitting around waiting on all these darn radiators to scrap and smelt. So I tried all the batteries, level 1 through 6. Every single one of them, regardless of tier quality, gave the exact same amount of lead. So for this particular experiment, I went ahead and used a level 3 car battery. It was right in the middle. So again, it didn't matter if I use level 1 or level 6, it's going to yield the same results. So when you're out there scrapping cars, it's not going to matter. Again, maybe scrap your level 1 batteries and keep your level 6s for the battery banks. Up to you. So smelting one battery, which again, for real life, don't throw a battery into a forge or any type of fire for safety. However, in 7 days to die only, and you put it in your forge, you get 160 lead per battery. If you scrap that same battery, you're going to get 120. So there's no way I was going to smelt and scrap 100 car batteries. I think that probably would have been even more of a pain than the radiator, since at least the radiator stacked. However, looking at these numbers for the lead battery, if you were to smelt 100 of the car batteries, you're going to end up with 16,000 lead. And if you were to scrap 100 of them, that's going to be 12,000. Again, sorry about having the whole visual aid. I'm just going to give you the numbers on that one. You guys are more than welcome to do that experiment and post the pictures yourself. Feel free. I'm going to continue on with what I have here. So one single lead trophy smelted is going to yield only 10 lead, whereas scrapping that same trophy is going to yield 7. Not a huge difference there. Again, once you get to the 100 mark, you're up to 1,000 versus 750. So now you've got that 250 buffer. So 250 lead, you can make a significant amount of bullet tips. So is it worth it to scrap those trophies over the long term, or just, again, 1 or 2 here and there just to clear some space? Fishing weights. Let's go ahead and delete that so it's not distracting. So the fishing weights, if you smelt 1, it yields 5 lead, whereas the trophy then was 10. So that little teeny tiny weight apparently is pretty significantly sized compared to a trophy. So again, scrapping that same lead fishing weight is only going to yield 3, where smelting 100 is going to give you 500. Scrapping them is going to give you 375. Again, kind of up to you on those numbers. All right, so now we get to our iron. We've got all those empty cans. Every time you're eating some cat food or some pears and it pops that empty can in your inventory. Every time you're looting some trash, find an empty can. You hold on to that can, or hold on to one can, throw it in your forge, you're going to get 5 iron out of it. So naturally, you're going to get 500 iron by smelting 100 of them. Well, that same 5 iron is only going to yield you 3. So not a huge deal when you're dealing with 1. But again, now you're going from 500 to 375. I like to have iron to upgrade my hatches, make repairs here and there, build some, or make some forged steel, forged iron. So as for that one, if your main goal and you're just hunting steel, I would suggest getting those cans and just stacking them up. Throw that stack of cans straight in the forge, because you're going to get more iron out of it. Again, you're just trying to clear some space. Scrap it, move on with life. Next time you find a stack of cans, load up on them. So hopefully you guys found this video somewhat educational, informative a little bit. I'm going to post the graph here so you can just see the visual representation of the numbers for those of you that didn't want to see this whole drawn out experiment and visually see the numbers pop up and the items in the boxes. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys got something out of this. Feel free to leave a like, comment down below if you liked it, didn't like it, something you'd like to see better, you want to see me add or do differently, any other experiments you want to see done. Let me know, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.